we need all positions double, because the number of games we have to cover. Yeah, you need that. You need the competition in. You always have to deal with suspension, with injuries, with when the form certain players are not the one you expect. You have to deal with it. Also from tactical perspective, yeah, we need double positioning. And
that was Erik Ten Hag speaking this week, saying he wants 2 players in every single position, double positions he calls it, so Man United can compete in the Premier League and the Champions League. But do we have that? What I'm going to do in this video, never done this before, I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to take a look at every single player who played for Manchester United during this pre-season in every position, take it across and make a formation, a starting 11, and the subs. Do we have double positions? I'm going to find out, and we can see where the weaknesses and the strengths are. Please, if you do enjoy this one, drop a like on the video. Make sure you join the United People's TV community. It's genuinely a family. I think you'll enjoy it. But let's get into this one, and I'm really, really going to enjoy it because there's been a lot of players that played for United during the pre-season tour. Of course, lots of these won't be here, right? So as I'm going to go through, I'm going to obviously Maguire, I don't think will be here. Fred, there'll be other players that I think will leave on loan. I'm going to run through each position, add the starting player, and who I think will be the backup. And we can start in goal. Now, this one, it's pretty much straightforward. I think it's quite straightforward anyway. Radek Vitek, I expect to go out on loan. I don't think he will be a Manchester United player this season, so we can take him off there. It's who you think will be our second choice. Now, I think it's going to be Tom Heaton, but Matej Kovar, I think, does have a shout for it. So let's go over here and let's add Onana in as Man United's first choice, right? And Tom Heaton as the second. Now, Tom Heaton, who I think was captain in our last game out in Dublin against Athletic Club, I think he's clearly a bigger character inside the dressing room than we know and give him credit for. Whether Matej Kovar is happy enough staying as that third choice. We tried to sign Suzuki as a third choice, but he said no, rejected us because he wanted game time. Understood that. I don't know whether Kovar is going to be here, but for the moment he is. So for the moment, I'm leaving him down there. Now let's go to left back. Again, this one feels quite straightforward, but of course we've not seen any of Malacia during the preseason because he was injured. So of course Luke Shaw is our first choice left back, and on paper you would say that Malacia is our second choice. But Alvaro Fernandez, man, I've got to give him props. I think he had a pretty good preseason tour. I think he could easily be Manchester United's second choice left back. But again, I think from a perspective of wanting game time, I would expect Fernandez to leave on loan. So I would take him off there, and in the same way, I would take Kovar off there because I think he will not want to stay. He won't want to go from winning the Czech Republic League last year to being a third choice behind Onana and Heaton. So that means we need a third choice goalkeeper. And in terms of left back, I think we're covered there. What happens if Shaw Malacia gets injured? Well, we'll get into that conversation, I suppose. Left centre back. I've got 3 options down here. I've got Martinez, I've got Lindelof, and I've got Evans. But I think it's probably best to do both centre-back options at the same time, right? Because there's names that we can be taking out. And there's one name that I think we will be taking out, of course, because West Ham have just agreed a deal for Harry Maguire, which leaves us with these options. Now, which out of these do you feel is the best right centre-back choice? Todibo, who is a natural right centre-back, plays for Nice. I'm going to have a scouting video on him quite soon. Tapsoba, who plays for Bayer Leverkusen, and Pavard, who can play right centre-back, but is more really a right-back. This is an interesting one, because I think I don't know who I would prefer. I'll be honest. I think I'm going to go for Todibo. I think I am. I'm going to bring him up there, delete those 2 from there, and I think we'll bring Todibo in. But of course, I think you're probably going to be looking at this, right? I don't want that in italics. Can that work? Oh, that does work. Lovely. I think you may well see Johnny Evans actually stay at the club. And United have depth like this, right? Because it will probably be Lindelof being the second choice left centre-back behind Martinez, right? So we go up here and we'll add this in. So we've got Martinez there as the first choice left centre-back. And you've got Varane as the first choice right centre-back. And then you would have Todibo down as the first choice. And you would have Lindelof down as the, not first choice, second choice. And then you'd have Evans, who could play there if needed. And I think Evans would be fine with that for a season, probably learning, maybe even doing his coaching badges in the background at United. I think he'd be happy with that, but I might be wrong. He might still want to play top-level football. But I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to go Todibo. It's probably the choice I would go for. But it's Todibo or Pavard, and I can understand the logic of both. But that's what that would look like inside that. I think there's pretty good options so far. In terms of right back, I think we all know who our first choice and our second choice options are. They're self-explanatory. Well, it depends who you think is first choice, right? Quite a few people will think it's Wan-Bissaka. Quite a few people will think it's Diogo Dalot. But I think United are pretty well stacked there, and I think we're going to be seeing Williams sold this summer, and I think you will see Gerardo go back out on loan, although Barcelona was sniffing around him again. Be interested to see if they come back in for him. Now, let's move into midfield and move further up the pitch, because I don't think that McTominay will be here. Well, will McTominay be here? If West Ham come in with the right bid, no. So I'm going to delete him. I'm going to take Fred out. And, of course, that leaves United very weak. Of course, we know full well who the first choice defensive midfielder for Manchester United next season is. It's Casemiro. But there's a weakness. We need that alternative. And that is where I genuinely think the signing of Amrabat is pretty crucial for Manchester United this season. Dangor. Oh, dear. I knew this was going to happen at some point. Jeez. There we go. Right. Dangor. Do I think under-21s football is still going to develop him? Probably not. I think Dangor needs a championship loan, so I think he'll probably push for one. But Erik Ten Hag might just say, look, we need you for that depth. And maybe Dangor will see that as too much of an opportunity, so he'll stay there. But I would love to see Amrabat come in, and I would be confident of having that depth. Casemiro and Amrabat, for me, is two great central defense CDMs. Number sixes, whatever you want to call him. I think that would be good. And we move on to these positions. There's so many players here. Mason Mount and Bruno, we know full well they're going to be the first choice, right? First choice players for United in those positions. Who would you choose as the backups out of all of these? Christian Eriksen, for me, is quite an obvious one. I don't think he's necessarily, per se, going to come in only when Bruno Fernandes goes off the pitch. He can play deeper alongside, maybe in a double pivot alongside Casemiro. Tactical versatility comes. But I don't think Christian Eriksen should be starting too much for United next season. And I think you're looking at Kobbie Mainoo as... Oh, look at he's even in here. Go on, Kobbie. My man. I don't know whether Hannibal will be happy enough. I think Gore will be happy enough being third choice behind Casemiro and Amrabat, if Amrabat was to join. I don't think Hannibal will be happy enough sitting, he's 2-3 years the senior of Mainoo. I think Hannibal will probably push for a season-long loan in the Premier League. And I think if he was to go to Luton, I think that'd be a very good move. But again, I'm pretty happy with the strength in depth here. Are we relying on an 18-year-old? Yes. Do I think he's good enough to be an understudy? Yes. Do I think he could have a breakthrough season? Absolutely. I think this is his breakthrough season. So let's move on to the attackers. And there are so many options here. This is where it becomes quite difficult. I think if you're looking first choice options, right? Let's make it simple. First choice options, if everybody is fit, you're probably looking at this. I think so anyway. You're looking at Rashford, you're looking at Anthony, and you're looking at Hojlund up front. But who do you put down as the second choice options? Because we do have options. Garnacho and Sancho on that left-hand side. You've got Pellistri and Ahmad on that right-hand side. And in the middle, well, you've basically got no option apart from Anthony Martial, who, let's be completely honest, are we relying on him being an option at any point this season? No, I'm not. I'd love to be able to, but I'm not. So I don't know whether he's going to be there. I genuinely think we might see Rashford end up being more the backup player in the middle rather than Anthony Martial because of the injuries. And I think you may end up saying, well, of course, I'm going to keep Rashford out on the left, but you see what I mean. And I think you've got to put Garnacho, I don't think. You've got to put Garnacho down as the first choice understudy for Rashford on that left-hand side. And you've got to put Sancho as the first choice there, which, of course, leaves Pellistri out of this squad. It leaves Ahmad out of this squad. Forson, I think there's absolutely no chance for him to get any game time. And Emran, I think there's absolutely no chance he gets any game time. So they're either going to be loaned or they're either going to stay with under-21s. And the same goes for Joe Hugel. But I don't know how Erik Ten Hag... Look, Hansen Aaron, I haven't even spoken about Donny van der Beek because I just consider him not part of the squad anymore. Real Sociedad in deep talks with him. I think he'll leave. And Hansen Aaron, I think he'll probably spend the year with the under-21s. But I don't know how Erik Ten Hag keeps Pellistri and Amad happy. I think one of them's going to have to go out on loan. Which one would you prefer? I personally think that Pellistri fits this transition team far more naturally than Amad does. As good as a technician I think that Amad is, I think Pellistri is more of a natural alternative to Antony to keep the same exact style, blistering on the counter-attack, on the transition. But what do you think about that? If we're looking at, as I said, I didn't say it. This man said it here.
We need all positions double.
All positions double. What do you think about that? Onana and Heaton in goal. Let's go full screen. You got Luke Shaw and Malacia there on the left-hand side. You got Martinez and Lindelof through the middle. Varane and Todibo. You got Wan-Bissaka and Diogo Dalot in midfield. You got Casemiro and Amrabat. On the left, you've got Mount and Mainu. On the right, you've got Bruno and Eriksen. Up front, Rashford and Garnacho, Hojlund and Martial, and Antony and Sancho. Do you think that squad there, would that be a squad that is capable of challenging in the Premier League and the Champions League? Because we're back in the Champions League this year. We want to step up from finishing 4th. That means we need to be challenging. Does that have the strength in depth? Where would you still have your concerns? And are there any players that you disagree with that I've taken off here that maybe should be in? Look, if there was the ability to add a third option underneath these wingers, I would. I would probably put Amad down here, maybe. I would put Pellistri over there for sure. Actually, Pellistri can play across both wings. Which players would you add? Which players do you think should be there that aren't there? I thought it would be interesting to take a look at this. And that's, of course, if we sign Todibo and if we sign Amrabat. More signings are needed to make this squad happen. You let me know what you think in the comments. As always, make sure you subscribe if you're new. And drop a like on the video. Why not?